All right. Let's move on to the opposite. So we're still gonna stay on the waiver wire topic, but then we're gonna talk about some players that you should probably leave on the waiver wire or don't pick them up if they're there, because maybe they are either weighing your team down or they're starting to lose opportunity. All right. So I'll kick it off. I think this player he's usually drafted every single year, and I think a lot of people are very hopeful for his opportunity. But I don't think it's going to come, and I think his rest of the season schedule is going to get worse and worse. For the Miami Heat, Goran Dragic. So Goran Dragic currently is 48% owned. So he either could be picked up, or obviously he's still rostered in a lot of leagues. But I feel like um, people hope that he'll drop, 20 points and like 10 assists every single night, which he does have the potential to. But with, new guards and new faces like Victor Oladipo coming in and Tyler Hero, really being the sixth man for the Miami Heat, they don't really need Goran Dragic as much as they did last year in the playoffs. So he's an okay streamer for like points and threes, but he really kills you on the field goal percentage and the turnovers. And also, I think he's only played like 20 games this season out of like the 50. So I would say there should be a better option than Goran Dragic. So if you have him on your team right now, maybe look to move on from him.
I think Dragic is on the worst possible team in terms of like guards and even like wings because the Heat are so deep. They have, like Angus mentioned, they have Tyler Hero, they have the newly traded Victor Oladipo, and they have Andre Iguodala. I think Dragic is more of a matchup base or like an injury away from getting more playing time. So I think, yeah, definitely one of the players to kind of stay away if you are looking at the wire.
And don't forget, sometimes the Heat tend to play Kendrick Nunn some minutes too. So whenever he plays, he actually performs. So maybe that's something you got to think about, or maybe Nunn will eat some of Dragic's minutes, and which will decrease his value even more.
If anything, he's more just the insurance policy for the Heat.
Yeah.
Or a debt roll.
All right, let's go back away around. And Sharon, what you got?
This player, he's actually rostered in quite a bit in Yahoo League. He's actually right now at 79% for the last 2 weeks, but then I can definitely see him being dropped. And we actually kind of mentioned this player just now. It's from the New Orleans Pelicans, Steven Adams. And this year he's averaging, the last 2 weeks he's been averaging 53% field goal percentage, 7 points a game, 8 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal, 1 block. It doesn't look that bad, but the free throw percentage, he's shooting 38% free throw percentage. And considering the last 2 weeks, Zion Williamson was hurt for a little bit, Ingram was hurt for a little bit, which gave him tons of like extra minutes. And with those guys coming back soon, I can definitely see Adams not being able to keep up this level.
Yeah, I think especially if the Pelicans want to go small, they'll play James Johnson like we mentioned earlier. But, he still has his minimal worth as he's always a starter with the Pelicans. So he's still going to get his, maybe 25 minutes per game. But like Sherman said, his, not much additional potential there.
Yeah, I think with Steven Adams, his upside is that he is low key kind of athletic. He can play like box out defense, but that stuff doesn't really show up on the stat sheet. And like Brian said just now, if they're ever going to go small, they rather just go with someone like James Johnson, who's a lot more mobile and faster. So Steven Adams definitely does not really have that much upside, and he hurts you in like the free throw percentages. So hard to keep him on a 12-team league.
And before one of their rotational players' injuries, he was even one of the best rebounders. If you actually look at the stats of Josh Hart, he was actually one of the better and most efficient rebounders on the Pelicans team before he got hurt. So, you know, he's not even a better rebounder than Josh Hart. So I don't know where Steven Adams is going.
I'm sure you're really happy to hear that, Sherman.
Oh man.
It's a little jab there. Anyways, so my player for this topic, like similar to Sherman's, he's actually rostered still at 70% on Yahoo Fantasy, but he has lost his starter's position lately to somebody else on the team. He's he's a young guy, but his downfall is inconsistency. So he hasn't been very consistent so far this season. I mean, he started off relatively hot, but has definitely struggled. He has lots of potential, but then I think his team is more focused on winning now rather than building for the future. So that's why his minutes have been cut, and due to his inconsistency, he's lost his starter's role. This player is from the Chicago Bulls, Kobe White. He was drafted out of North Carolina. It's only his second year on the team. He's 21. He's averaging 14 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists. And like I said, he's lost his starter's role to Thomas Satoransky on the Bulls team. And with the recent acquisition of Vucevic from the Orlando Magic, I think the Bulls are definitely in a win now mode with Zach LaVine, with Vucevic, with Satoransky. So I think the appetite for the coach, Billy Donovan, to give this player more time, even with the struggles, isn't there anymore. And along with Lauri Markkanen, is kind of been relegated to the bench and having a lesser role on the Bulls. So I think Kobe White's going to be somebody we're going to see, being dropped a lot more and have a lesser or a higher or a lesser percentage rate in terms of being owned.
I agree. Like after the Bulls traded for Vucevic, that just screams for they're going for it this year, or at least trying to make a deep playoff run. And with like, as you said, Kobe White being like young and like have a tendency to make mistakes and inconsistency with trying to win now Bulls team, that's maybe something like Billy Donovan can't tolerate.
Exactly. So even if you could do a comparison, they're opting to play Theotitus Young and Thomas Satoransky over Markkanen and White. Even though Markkanen and White are both more younger and more talented, but have less experience and are more, like Sherman mentioned, mistake prone, the coach doesn't have that longer of a leash for those kind of players, and rather than stick with the veterans that can give him what he needs and what they need right now for the team to win now and succeed and not build for the future.
Yeah, totally agree. Kobe White will be kind of interesting. I definitely see the upside for him. I think he's like actually a pretty good player, but like you guys said, maybe he's just not in the right situation. If he was on like a more rebuilding team that, has all the minutes for him to just give him the ball and just let him make his own mistakes and learn from it, that's kind of fine. Maybe kind of like a Kevin Porter, but in Houston. But then Chicago Bulls are pretty serious about that playoff run, so Kobe will have to learn from the bench.
And I think also being only in the second year, they're asking maybe for him to do too much before the arrival of Vucevic. So that means he's kind of outside of his comfort zone and will make more mistakes and turn the ball over more. So if he just kind of keeps it simple and just do a few things rather than everything, so he might be better that
For
way.
sure.
All right, same thing. There's probably other players that we may have not mentioned, and sometimes these trends will depend on how players get injured or like how the personnel changes. So definitely tune in and keep your ears and eyes peeled to see how trends of the players go.